Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, today's interview with Pamela Eyring, president of the Protocol School of Washington. How did we get so lucky to have a conversation with this inimitable leader in the world who is helping all of us show up as leaders in the world? And truly, it's not an exaggeration to say she works with leaders of the world. Allow me to introduce all of you to Pamela. Pamela has been president of the Protocol School of Washington here in the Washington, D.C. area for 16 years. She is literally days away, I think, if I understood you correctly, Pamela, from your 16th anniversary. Congratulations.
Right. Yeah, another week and I'm official.
So exciting. And Pamela, her expertise is in business etiquette, networking, business skills, dining etiquette. She has been a featured contributor on modern business etiquette for publications such as the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and many others over the course of her career, including our very own Washington Business Journal. Pamela, in her more than 30 years of experience in the professional world, has worked with heads of state, four-star general officers, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, leaders in academia, and entrepreneurs the world over. Pamela has seen etiquette at the highest levels, truly from nearly every angle, truly all over the world. It is such an honor, Pamela, to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, April. Of course, you're a graduate of our school. I wouldn't miss being here with you.
I am so proud to be a graduate of the Protocol School, and that's one of the reasons I feel it's truly so important for anyone at any stage of their career to have what I think you call also, Pamela, etiquette intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. This is, in fact, you and I were talking about this just before going live, that with the pandemic, all of us could probably use a brush up. Because most of us have not, we haven't been in in-person environments, most of us, for 12 to 18 months. And certainly the virtual world has its own rules of etiquette. But this is really a great opportunity for all of us to probably get a brush up and a polish.
That's exactly what I did for you, April. As I mentioned, I do have shoes on today. It's a good day.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's definitely the new next level piece of etiquette there. Wearing shoes for the Zoom.
You gotta start somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
Somewhere.
That's right. Pamela, if you could just, give all of us a sense of, I'm curious about this as well. What is it that caused you to choose to devote your career to this field of etiquette and protocol?
Well, not to give you the whole life story, but it did start at an early time in my life, actually with my mother and the way that she would set a table. And I was an only child. And I would think, Mother, is the army coming over? There's a lot of place settings, and it's just you and I and what my father, what's going on? And she would say, it's always nice to set a beautiful table, even if you're not expecting guests. So it kind of, started there. But then when I was in high school, which was a long time ago, one of our teachers brought in an etiquette expert to teach us business etiquette and dining. And I was like, I think I was a senior, and I thought, wow, this is so wonderful. I felt more sophisticated. I felt more confident, and I didn't realize how many faux pas maybe I was making myself, at a young age. But I was getting ready to work for the Air Force at 18 years old. I graduated high school and I began working for the Air Force at 18. And there I saw a lot of that etiquette come to realization. And, military have a lot of rank and order and precedence, but it was how these leaders would show their leadership and their personal diplomacy and their brand. And some were not just military officers or enlisted, they were also civilians like myself. And I think I grasped onto those mentors that I found were well respected, that were likable, that were intelligent or had high intelligence, but yet they could make you feel very comfortable in their meetings or around you. And they had respect, and I wanted to earn my own respect as a young professional. And after that, I had the opportunity to work in protocol as a protocol assistant. And I'll tell you honestly, I didn't know how to spell the word at one time until, or really what protocol was. I mean, you can be around it, but you might not really know. And that's when I applied for the position and was working in the command section at Air Force Materiel Command, or back then it was called Logistics Command. But the point was I was in protocol, and I just learned so much of those behaviors that were necessary and the professionalism needed to earn that respect and work hard. So it really started quite early, really early. And then I fell in love with it, of course.
Well, I mean, there's several. I wonder, Pamela, if maybe I might ask you to mute when you're not speaking, and I'll do the same, because I'm getting just a little feedback. I'm not sure what that might be from, but so we'll both be very facile with our mute buttons here. But there's several things you said there that really just grabbed my attention. I mean, I think first of all, when you described your impression, even as a high schooler and young person, in that first position I think you were at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, if I'm correct, in Dayton, Ohio, and you describing your impression of what you saw there, even through Air Force military officers, as etiquette as a way of showing their leadership. I think that is so interesting, because I think people think of leadership sometimes as these big, broad brushstrokes and these, these big decisions that, change big things in the world, or a whole lot of people have to be following you. But this idea that how you even show up, that you demonstrating that level of polish, that level of professionalism, is actually an expression of leadership. I find that fascinating. Could you expand on that?
Yes, April. It's when you really watch other people's behaviors, it's quite simple. Either you like them or you don't. Sometimes we get offended by somebody's behaviors or their communication style, or what they say to us, maybe because they're more direct, maybe they're less direct. But when I was watching, I would watch everything, and I would pick up on the mannerisms and the etiquette of what I liked and what I saw as beneficial. So there were things I saw too that that's not my style. I can't do that. I can't be this way or that way. I wanted to be authentically myself, but I wanted to, as we call them in our profession, they're snitchables. I want to snitch what she was doing so well, or how she dressed, or how he behaved during that instance, or the confidence, the look of confidence, and do it consistently. That's the magic part of what I saw with those leaders that I worked with and still work with day to day, is their likability, their respect for other people. They pay attention to you when you're speaking, and their listening skills, or they remember you. They might even remember my name, which was like, what? I mean, wow. That's when you've made that first impression and that impact. And not that you have to go seek it, but consistency, I noticed, was a key factor. So I started with the dress and attire. The women, especially I worked with in protocol, were probably 20, 30 years older than me, maybe 20-ish. But they were so professional, and I watched how they dressed every single day. I wanted to emulate that because they were confident and they looked professional, because we're visual people. So it kind of starts with the way we look to some instance, I think. So I started with my dress and attire, got my first set of pearls when I was in protocol, a very thin strand, and I thought that was magic for me because I never had pearls. And I don't know if they were real or not, but they were a gift. It didn't matter. I loved them. And I wear them today, and I think everyone should have some fun with them. Get the chunky ones or the thin ones, whatever you want. But I think that's what we're looking at, is ways to build relationships. That's what etiquette and protocol, they do for us, is by providing that, as I always say, that distraction-free environment. So you dress professionally, you act professionally, you show your manners and civility, and you show respect to other people. You get that twice fold back.
Wow. You know, there's a lot of research. I'm finding there's a lot of research as I'm putting my book together, The Day One Executive. I might have mentioned that at the start of the call here, that, you know, so much of that even impacts us on a subconscious level. I mean, certainly, I mean, to your point, you consciously noticed a level of treatment that you received when people remembered your name, a level of crispness in attire, right? That finished look. And yet there's also many, many subconscious cues that I think the level of attention to detail that you're describing, even in a person's attire and in the way they're interacting with others, is signaling that, to your point, it really is something that's going to elevate your presence. It's going to elevate the way you're received in the world. And it's going to elevate really your treatment of others. You and I were also talking about before the broadcast about this idea of really treating people with civility and dignity, truly worthy of a world leader, right? Treating every person you meet with that level of, treatment. I think that's just such a powerful idea.
Well, it's quite an impact, you know, especially today, April, I think with the decline in civility, you know, more behind the screen. There are definitely some haters out there that, you know, and they hate everything. They hate everybody. They probably hate themselves, sadly, because all they can do is spew ugliness because they're hidden behind a screen or a text box, whatever it is. And I think some days I do feel like I'm rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, because it's getting more and more worse as time goes on. We saw this coming. This isn't new, that there's a lack of etiquette in the world, and especially in the United States. We're probably one of two most casual countries in the world, and I doesn't mean that being casual is incivility, the marker for incivility at all. It just means that we have to pay attention about how we do business. And my focus tends to be more on the professional business side. As you know, we don't teach children in those levels, but they need that. But they need to learn it from their parents too. Yeah. And because they're not giving that in school today, unfortunately. Yeah. So it comes back to the parents. And our core values. Our core value system is very important. And I'm not saying you have to be very formal. You know, a lot of people hear the word protocol and they think formality, always formal. It doesn't have to be that. You can be formal, but you can be comfortable to make others. I think that's what Americans do great. We tend to make people feel at ease. We want them to feel at ease. So there's not all haters out there, and we're not on the Titanic. But I tell you, if we don't pay attention to it and hone these skills or get them back, because now we're working Zoom and we're losing that on-the-job mentorship, that informal coaching that we used to have when we were in an office environment day to day, where we could be together and see each other. Now we're just on a screen. And I'm seeing a lot of people putting their screens on, you know, hiding, you know, off a video. Well, that even makes it worse to showcase your professionalism when you have your camera off. I mean, how would you like to do this interview when you're online and showing your face and your personality and your interest, and me not? And just only using my voice. So I'm saying that there's still room for improvement, and I think more than ever we need it.
So, you know, you make a really good point about this virtual world that so many of us are in right now, and I think it's here to stay. I definitely predict a hybrid world is largely in the future, and it will be really a mix of in-person and virtual environments. But you know, people are not getting the opportunity that they had even before the pandemic to witness even the role modeling, right? When you're in an in-person environment and you're seeing your executives, the executives that you work with, the executives whom you work for and in support of, the organization's mission, when you're seeing them on a daily basis, they are powerful role models in all of our lives, right? And certainly young people starting out in their careers, but they're not getting that anymore. And to your point, we're not necessarily, I think for the most part, there isn't a college really teaching this anymore. And that used to happen. But, Pamela, let me ask you, there's a really funny scene in Madam Secretary, which I always recommend. Anyone that wants to work in the government, I say you need to watch that series if you ever want to work at or ever ascend into those top ranks. It's obviously very fictional, but there's a lot about it that's very true. And there's a really funny scene where the Secretary of State, played by Téa Leoni, just brilliantly, her chief of staff, Blake, who is by nature a meticulous person and a wonderful character on the show, but he's briefly assigned into the protocol office at the Department of State, and it's so comical. And even Blake, who's very meticulous by nature, is like blown away and sort of overwhelmed by, the level of detail that goes into the Department of State and truly any federal agency that's hosting, world leaders or other fellow top government officials, into any sort of event like that. And he decides within, about a week or so of his assignment that he's not cut out for that. And it's really comical. And I think it's very revealing and educational on the one hand about what truly does go on behind the scenes, the level of attention that truly is paid, right down to things like seating charts and things like that. At the same time, for people that might be listening to this now and in the future, and certainly in my book, I wouldn't want people to see something like that and think, oh my gosh, I could never begin, to learn that, right? That's just overwhelming to me. And I'll just throw in the towel because I wouldn't even know where to begin. So what would you suggest, Pamela? What are some, how would you respond to that, right? How would you reassure someone that business etiquette is something you can learn and it's worth learning, and it doesn't require, although I highly recommend the Protocol School of Washington, and you all actually have quite an array of courses. You don't have to. I chose to be licensed as a trainer in all of your curriculum because I believe so strongly in what you all are doing for the kind of people that I serve and the work that I do. But you don't have to necessarily go all the way and be a fully licensed trainer to take some of the many other offerings that you all have. But how would you reassure someone that, what would you recommend as a place to start for someone that does want to polish their presence, but doesn't want to face what Blake faced when he was assigned to the protocol office for the week?
Well, let me start, because I worked in protocol for a long time and I was the chief of protocol as well. So I worked my way up and like I said before, I didn't even know how to spell protocol at one time. I thought it was A-L. No, it's 3 O's, O-L. But the point is it, in our everyday lives and when we talk about business etiquette, those are the behaviors, right? Those are the behaviors that we show, and everything speaks, April. So when we're backstage, just think of Disney and the big shows that they put on, and here comes Cinderella and Mickey Mouse, but there's always the behind the scenes area, right? When you're backstage. So really understanding when you're backstage and when you're on stage. When you're with other people, not just your family at home, kick back, eating on a paper plate, enjoying a movie, you're on stage when you're doing any type of business events or official functions for your company or for you professionally as you network or meet people. It's not intimidating. It's just detail oriented. What he felt was the day-to-day details, the planning part, the specification, the planning. We created a whole master protocol process that engulfs all of that so that you can plan a high level or official event. And our protocol officer training course does that. And we have individual modules too on flag etiquette, titles and forms of address, precedents, because there's so many details. Where event planners, they focus on the management of that event, the lighting, the room size, the staging and the microphone, the audiovisual and experience. What protocol professionals do in addition to the planning is also focus on the people, their rank and status and seating, not just how many seats per table, but really what it is that can create that great table of enjoyment, and have the right mix, but yet giving honor to those at those highest ranking levels. But really everything speaks, and to get started in it is just to notice that there are benefits, being self-aware of our own self and not saying, I'm fine, my shirt's wrinkled, or I don't have any business cards, who cares? Having a laissez-faire attitude won't help you in anything. But having interest in saying, you don't have to be a protocol and etiquette expert like us, they just want to use it for their professional development. And start by one, you can read books, you can read our blogs, attend functions like this on LinkedIn to learn how to do some of those things. So, and I would start again with our behaviors and how do we plus that up? But communication is probably the number one area people can focus on, especially electronic communication, like our emails. And I don't know about you, April, but I get WhatsApp messages, I get emails, I get LinkedIn messages, Facebook messages. I am inundated with messages. And just talking about emails, almost 150 to 200 a day. And some of them are spam, granted. And of course, I never delete any emails. But with those email influx, I get emails that they're trying to sell me on their services or their products. And they're like, hey, Pam. And I'm like, that's so casual. Do I know you? And you're trying to sell to me? You didn't even take, in consideration that, that I might be, do you know anything about what my school teaches? Do you know anything about my company? Right? So you wouldn't probably approach me and go, hey, what's up? I don't necessarily need all that formality, but the point is just showing respect. And just as simple as going, using dear or hello or good morning or good afternoon is a better start than hey.
Yeah.
That tells me immediately that this person can't be that professional. And it might not be true. That's the problem. Subconsciously, because it's a value of mine, of having good written communication and interaction, I dismiss it. And so you have to know your target audience of who you're communicating with. And sometimes we have to communicate with all generations, all, different ages, different locations. I have an office in Dubai. So my communication style has to be different when I'm emailing clients in the UAE or in the Middle East or other abroad than it is maybe in the United States. But just having a little more respect when you're sending emails and communicating is an easy start. Costs nothing. Just to type in that word, hello or greetings.
That is, it sounds like such a simple tip. And yet I think the fact that, to your point, and this is part of what excites me about the field of etiquette, business etiquette, to your point, is that it is so uncommon in today's world. I see it as such an opportunity that's available to everybody, to help them stand out. It's such a simple space to step into. And it's really so easy to step into that space. To your point, just joining a broadcast like this or picking up a book and taking the time to do just a little bit of research even on the person that you're writing and position your correspondence in a way that is honoring of them and more likely to be well received by them. I mean, it's such a small thing, and yet it can make such a big impression. It can be the very thing that allows you to, quite frankly, when you're equally qualified with other people, that might be the thing that gets you the job. When you're equally qualified, that might be the thing that gets you in the door for that business conversation that somebody else was just turned away for. I mean, it's really that simple. It's like a master key, it seems like.
Yeah, I just think people want to be, Americans, we tend to be more egalitarian. So I think people say, well, if I can act more casual, they'll think, I'm down to earth, or that I'm friendly, or they, there's no necessary or no need for this formality. I can just be super casual and everyone will respect me and buy my product. And it's not true. It really is not true. These are differentiators. One, it helps with teamwork when you're respectful and you show that respect to your colleagues, and not just your clients, but with your colleagues. And that teamwork is important, that we can work together, and that, oh yes, I can have so-and-so in my team represent me at this function or this event or this Zoom call, because I know that they'll be stage ready. They'll be appropriately dressed. And I like to dress casual. I live on a lake. I love to dress casually. But I also know that there are times I have to put those shoes on, right, April?
Yeah.
And I think that's where, we just go in life, and time, time is so precious to us today. So many activities, and those with families, they're so difficult to manage and balance. So we're on this speed mode to get everything done as much as possible. And then we miss those little details like appreciation. You know how I am about thank you notes. There's just nothing better from my perspective and what I've asked from all my class. I'm like, when's the last time you received a thank you note? And a lot of people go, it's been a while. I go, but when you did get it, how did it make you feel?
Yeah.
And it was like today it's even more super special that they receive one, and how that they remember it. They remember when you send a thank you note. And that only helps you build the difference. And there was a study that said that someone being interviewed, same qualifications, but one sent a thank you note than the other, had a 5% increase. Not a lot, but still 5% that they would get the job over someone else.
Wow.
5% is 5%. You only need 1%.
Listen, I was going to say, all you have to do is watch the Olympics to know that it takes 0.1%, a fraction of a percent, to be the person that walks home with the gold medal. 5% absolutely is enough to tilt that balance in your favor. I mean, that's incredibly powerful. And funny about you speaking about a study. I was just reading a study, Pamela, today actually, working on the book really early this morning, in the Journal of Psychiatry. And it was talking about a study where they compared people that wrote handwritten thank you notes over the period of like 1 week to people that wrote in a journal over the same. So the handwritten thank you note group for 1 week, each day they wrote one note to someone for whom they felt appreciation, that they felt they had not properly thanked. They wrote that thank you note each day for a week. The second group journaled about whatever emotions they were having, right? Struggles, stressful events in their lives. They journaled about this. I mean, these are people that were struggling in their lives. This is a psychiatry experiment, basically. And the control group did nothing. And what they found 3 weeks later, and then 12 weeks later, so 3 months later, 3 weeks and 3 months later, was that the group that had written the thank you note had significant, they called it significant, psycho and emotion, mental health benefits compared to both of the other groups. I thought that was so interesting, because we've always been told to journal, right? But in fact, it's this act of expressing appreciation and actually internalizing those feelings of appreciation and gratitude and writing them down by hand that actually has the benefit even to ourselves, even to our own bodies, on top of the benefits that you just mentioned that can truly cause you to stand apart, cause you to stand out at a time when every little difference adds up, and can allow you to have a more fulfilling life and career.
Right. And I'm not saying that it's not fine that you can't send an email and say thank you. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's so common. Everybody does it. Or text, hey, I had great lunch with you yesterday. But when you want to make an impact and show really a lot of appreciation due to whatever that person did, maybe they referred you to someone, gave you a new client, or maybe they just listened to you when you needed them the most. whether personally or professionally. And then you send them that note to say, I just want you to know how much I appreciate that time, because time is so precious.
Yeah.
I keep all of mine, April. I have boxes of them. I think I'll be buried with them. I haven't put it in the will yet, but just bury me full of these thank you notes, because I go back sometimes and just reread them. I mean, I have them from 30 some years. And then I remember that individual, and it makes me feel good about what I do. So when I celebrate that 16th year, October 21st, of owning the school, that's a day that I would love to read my thank you notes, especially from students that I've had, to clients, to friends that I've tried to help throughout the years, because it makes me feel good about me. And that's another, probably one they haven't done the study on, but I bet you if you reread your notes, just go any of them, at least read 3 or 4 if you still keep them, or even one, and you'll see what a difference it makes in your mental attitude. Like, and then you might reach out to them and go, hey, remember me? Don't say hey, but you know.
That's right. Dear so-and-so. What a beautiful idea to save your thank you notes, Pamela, and to periodically reread them. I think that's what a gift to oneself. You know, I think that's a really beautiful idea. That's going to be one of my takeaways even from this call. I'm going to have to get my own thank you note off to you in time for your for the 21st, so that when you pull those thank you notes out, mine's arriving right at the same time.
Anytime, April. I like them anytime.
Oh my goodness. You know, well, and I see a comment here from one of our viewers, Delia, who's agreeing with and thanking you for, you know, the point you're making about even these small gestures. She says it's like the difference between you're welcome versus no problem, right? That formality, that you're welcome is, you know, just a little more formal, right? And she says, you know, respect for self and others. Great call. So
thank you.
I think, you know, such a great point. And so what other tips might you recommend, Pamela? I think the handwritten thank you note is one that we, you know, it's just time proven. It will never go out of style. And it's even more important, to your point, now, because it's even rarer now than ever before. But what are some other tips you might offer or suggest for especially some of our younger folks who might be just starting in their career? And as we've been saying, right, they maybe haven't been trained in this. They've maybe never had a role model in their lives teaching them any of these things.
That's right. And you know, that's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. You know, when I had that etiquette trainer come into my high school, I didn't know what I didn't know. And even when I went to the Protocol School of Washington, I'm a graduate like you are, April. When Dorothea Johnson, our founder, started the school, it was in the early 90s, and I was the chief of protocol, you know, feeling pretty confident there, and go, you know, I attended because my friend said that she had went and I never heard of it. And I had to go, and my 4-star granted that permission and funded it. And then I realized I really didn't know what I didn't know when I was under her tutelage, and Robert Hickey, my deputy, was there. And I thought, wow. And I've been hosting internationals from all over the world. I could do it better. And I had a drive to do it better. So, you know, I think when you look at this, you don't have to be an expert in this arena. It's just have that self-awareness, the emotional intelligence to be aware of other people's behaviors. And then, you know, we all want to be liked. It's human nature to have likability, you know, and the power of positive thinking. These are critical skills to have, but don't be too confident where you think you can't learn from someone else. And I think that not just with young people, my daughter's 23 years old, and, you know, she's pretty confident, a biomedical engineer, went to Duke University. I can put all these accolades to her, but she will need to continue those communication skills in the business arena, whether she becomes a doctor or she's an EMT as well. Communication with people. All the artificial intelligence in the world cannot replace us, but we rely on it a lot. And we sometimes overreact. So to the young people, I would say, watch what you're posting and don't believe everything you see posted. You know, be careful, because more than ever, our employers searching every kind of search engine, not just Google, but they're going into the social media sites, trying to glean a little more about you than what's on that resume. Because a resume is not going to hold it anymore. It's not the experience only. They're looking at how much investment do we have to put in this person for a true professional. And that's an area that I hear from employers often, all the time, and in studies and surveys, that our younger force coming right out of colleges and universities don't have the people skills. They don't have they don't know conflict resolution. They don't know how to be collaborative, because they've always worked so individually in universities today. But they need to know how to work on a team and be collaborative and to get those things done, not just do it themselves to get it done. And they have some opportunity to practice that in universities, but it's not as sticking as well, because they're trying to build knowledge and not practical abilities and skills. So learn, watch others, say, can I help with that project? And even if you have to put in another couple hours of work that week, you'd be surprised out of those 2 or 3 hours extra you put in, how much more you'll get out of it. But finding good mentors or people that you find that are respected, it's not all about making money. It's also about leaving our legacy one day as we continue through life.
You know, there's so many nuggets kind of sprinkled in what you just shared. I mean, I think first of all, something that just stood out to me, Pamela, is, and I've never thought about this before actually with this field of etiquette, but that it's not all or nothing. This idea that you don't have to know it all. You don't have to be that expert. I'm so grateful for experts like you and Robert Hickey and the entire, role there at the Protocol School of Washington, where all of us, myself included, I can't wait to go back and refresh my own training, grateful for these experts in the world. And yet you don't have to be an expert in etiquette to be able to do something, to be able to stand out even just a little bit, even in that one moment, even in that one interview with that one thank you note. You don't have to get it all right to get something. I don't want to say right, but I want to say to do and be something that is just a little different, again, just demonstrating that little extra piece of etiquette that's going to create a different result with the person that you're interacting with. And the other thing one other thing that struck me in what you just said is this idea that, in college and really any formative school, right? And obviously we might have folks watching now or in the future that didn't go to college even, but they've certainly been to secondary school probably. But those relationships may or may not be long-term relationships in your life. And the difference that I point out in my book about becoming a professional, and certainly if you're someone who aspires for the executive ranks, is that you need to take a long-term view in your relationship building. You need to treat and see every person you meet as someone who's going to likely become a part of your future universe, your future tapestry of your career. And you never know where those threads are going to weave back together again. You never know when and how even someone you thought you didn't like maybe, right, ends up being a contribution at some point in your career or in something you're working on in the world, and vice versa. I mean, you really have to take this long-term view to every relationship. And that's where I feel like, again, the attention to etiquette, the investment in etiquette is just so powerful in helping you get off to that running start.
April, you never know who you're going to work for someday, is what I always say. You never know, and that doesn't mean that you're employed by them. I never thought I'd own the Protocol School of Washington. That wasn't in my radar when I first came through the school, but I was so impressed by what I learned from Dorothea and the curriculum that she designed, and the way that she designed it it changed my life. And then she would hire me to come and do some trainings in the same class I graduated from. And I would take my vacation time, and I had approval from the Air Force to do that. And I'd come back, and it was a great way for me to stretch myself, is to learn and continue learning. And I'll tell you, Dorothea was one of my prime mentors, of course, even when I was coming through the class. from my suiting to my communication or how I explained a certain subject. And then when I found out that she was going to sell the school, but she was really looking for a successor that would take it to the next level, I felt confident enough to ask her, would she consider me?
How
and
brave.
After all those years, and well, for me, it was, I resigned from the Air Force. I hadn't retired yet. I was only 40 years old. So, it was a moment, and I went in debt too, but, good SBA loan, but I had to get that. There was a
Good
lot
kind
of
of debt. That's a good kind of debt.
It was the best kind of debt, and I paid that debt off. And but what I'm saying is, you have to have some courage too, to learn from other people. And it was an amazing moment in my life that I never expected to happen. So these things can lead you to different paths in your life. Or that relationship. You were kind to someone or respectful, don't even remember their name, but they remember you. And then someday you cross paths again, and they open an opportunity for you that you didn't expect, but they remembered you because of the civility that you had, or the respect that you showed, or even, just having great eye contact sometimes can build trust by listening. So awesome.
So it's
all of you can be out there, be ambassadors of goodwill for us. We need all the help we can get.
We do. We truly do. I like to say places like the Protocol School of Washington make the world go round. They truly do. Ed, as part of the research for the book, The Day One Executive, one of the things I touch on in the book is the 6 major forms of power and bases of power. Obviously, the most common I think reference that people think of is what would be called legitimate power, which is positional power, right? And that's something certainly many people aspire for that in their career. They aspire to make it to the top of that organizational chart one day, but not everyone's going to arrive at necessarily at that top spot, but what I find incredibly interesting is that that's by no means the only form of power. And, 2 other forms of power, one of which pertains directly to the subject of etiquette. One of them is frequently confused, that are frequently confused, I would say. And one is reward power. That's the ability to, it's linked to its cousin, coercive power, right? It's the ability to either give someone something of value or to take that away, right? Or to threaten to take that away, reward and coercive power. But in both cases, there's the expectation of something very specific happening behaviorally in exchange for that. But referent power, which is often mistaken and confused with reward power, referent power is very much in the space of etiquette. It's very much in the space of your personal power. And that derives from your integrity, your actual integrity and perceptions of your integrity, your trust, how you present as a high trust leader. And to your point about eye contact, right? Your perceived generosity as a leader. When you were mentioning earlier that, the willingness to take your own vacation time even, right? To contribute into the mission of the Protocol School of Washington. You were using referent power, and you were actually growing your own referent power in your willingness to do that. And this idea that, so to me, I guess where I'm going with this is that I really see etiquette and a person's willingness to invest themselves in etiquette and not just learning it, but using it in their lives is, it is a way to grow their own referent power, their own personal power as a leader, even before they have that positional power that they might aspire for in their lives. They can still show up as that powerful person right now.
Yeah, it's noticeable when you can tell when someone has it. I mean, you don't have to work with them long to see that area, like you're describing, April. And it's just the consistency of it.
Yeah.
Just the consistency of it.
Showing up day in, day out with that. Yeah. And referent power does not expect anything in return. That's another key distinction with reward power, right? So everything you've said here, Pamela, with etiquette, this is a way of being with no expectation of any reciprocation, right? Of anything in return for that. It's a choice we make to show up in the world and bring this into the world and, you know, raise the standard of the world, even with no expectation of any reward or anything in exchange for that. I think that's just so beautiful.
That's right. It's the best kind.
It's just, yeah, there's such a generosity in that, such an energy of generosity in that. I really just, and gifting to each person that we meet.
But so, that's how you build relationships, and as well as by helping and assisting others. Yes. You know, you don't want to be taken advantage of. No one wants to be taken advantage of. But you don't know that, you know, you have to build that trust with someone, you know, and you can. And then you realize that, hey, I can help that individual. If you can, do it. I call that purposeful acts of kindness, April. Not random. It's purposeful. So when you have that opportunity to make someone's life better, or recommend them, or give them a connection that you believe is warranted, that is purposeful. And you can even do it with complete strangers too. I mean, you see all these wonderful, good things happening in the world of paying it forward. That was a term that we used to use all the time. I think people still do it, or pass it on.
Yeah.
I love their little billboards and things, because we can feed our brain with negativity, and we already have fear in this world over the COVID and the economy and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's endless, and it'll continue. We got to work in this environment, you and I, everyone.
Yeah.
So we start with trying to feed our brain with the positive sides of what we want in life, and try to find joy. My dad's always asked me, do you have joy in your life? And some days I do, and some days maybe not joy, because I'm balancing so much right now, but then I think I need more joy. So how do I get it? So we can balance this work-life situation. And, you know, maybe it is taking a day off, or some retail therapy sometimes, which I haven't had enough of. So
I did notice reading your bio that shopping is one of your hobbies that you love to do.
Well, it's not just to buy things. I like practical things, and there's splurges, but I also want to get the best price for them. So
that great value.
I wait. I can be very patient. It's not like I have to have it now, but I'll wait for a good sale. I do like a good sale.
Patience is definitely a virtue, and a virtue that pays off in this case. So, you know, Pamela, I would love to just, when you think about even seasoned executives or seasoned professionals that, you know, who maybe are listening to this and are wondering, well, what are some practical things I could start to do even tomorrow when I do show back up in that workplace? Because that is increasingly happening. People are increasing. I've personally been in an office since July. So, but people are increasingly being called back into work, or back and forth, right? They might be home a few days and at work a few days, and maybe they're feeling a little nervous about that return. But what are some pragmatic tips you would offer them to help them really show up feeling great and really bringing some of that etiquette forward on day one of this return to the office, or that next big business meeting they have?
I think being sensitive, you know, getting back into the workforce, meaning physically, has been a challenge for many people. There's a lot of fear still. You know, there's no consistency there, of course. On each state is different, each city is different, each county is different. Just depends on where you work and who you work for. Some are mandating vaccines, some are not. But the ones that are not, for instance, there are people that are very nervous about being with their colleagues that might not, and they don't know if they are or not. And so being sensitive, because you don't know if they lost some family members or how it's impacted their mental health. We're seeing a huge surge in mental health issues based from COVID. So my recommendation is step in gingerly. Be, you know, a little soft in that approach. Don't go running up and hugging your colleague because you haven't seen them except on Zoom for a year and a half. You know, be considerate and show that etiquette and be approachable and likable. But if you think, if you're not comfortable and you want to wear a mask, just wear a mask. And then communicating to other people what your needs are too. But ask them what their needs are. Don't say, hey, you vaccinated? I wouldn't come in that strong. It's just to protect yourself. If you're not comfortable sitting, 3 feet away, you need 6 feet, do it. Say, well, if I would be more comfortable if I sat by the door or back further. Like we're working still remotely, but our office is open for those teammates that want to come in and collaborate or work, need some quiet time. And so I have 2 colleagues here right now that are working this afternoon. But I also, we're having our offsite soon. And the feedback was, let's stay local and instead of meeting in our conference room, which we have a nice conference room, but for 5, 6 people that aren't coming in hybrid, some were uncomfortable with that. So we went out and looked for a facility or venue that would have more space, even though there's only 5 of us or 6 of us, but they could amply, if they'd like to, spread out more. If they want to wear their masks, I'm not making it mandatory, but I'm allowing them to decide. Now, my whole team is vaccinated. That I know because they've shared it with me. I didn't ask them. They've shared that with me when they have gotten it, or even one got a booster recently. So that's what I'm saying, is being sensitive to what their needs are and what your needs are, and communicating that in a nice way. So if someone's too close to you and you're feeling uncomfortable, take a step back. So, I really feel better, and smile about it. It's kind of like those faux pas that we have. You can apologize. Say, I'm sorry, I need a little more space. I'm just feeling a little, a little anxiety being so close with everyone right now. And people go, oh, no worries, Pamela, I will step back, So having that communication and being in a nice way is important, I think, going back into the workforce. And, and we're going to mess up. We're going to sit next to them, and they don't want us to sit next to them too close. And we'll just apologize and say, oh, I'm sorry, and just move over. But don't be biased. If you don't know if they have a vaccine or not, watch the bias, because I'd hate to see segregation in the office because of that. But it's going to happen. Some of these things are just naturally going to happen because of fear.
Yeah. But I love everything you just said, Pamela. And I think it is an opportunity for all of us to show up as leaders by being those people that create that space for that sensitivity. There might be, people might encounter a lot of different kinds of attitudes when they return, certainly with the way all of this has been handled. There's people on all ends of the spectrum here, but that, all of us can show up, and anyone watching this now or in the future, they can choose to show up to be that leader. And really all it takes is one. It takes one person who helps, change that tone, who helps create that space where everyone feels welcome and permission to take care of their needs in whatever whatever those ways are, as you said, whether that's needing a little more distance.
Employers need to do that too.
Wearing a mask. Yeah. And I love you as the willingness, your willingness, Pamela, as the president of the protocol school, your willingness, you all have a conference room there. But when your staff expressed that they would prefer more space, your willingness right away to divert, and even if that came at some expense, to create that physical space where that could be accommodated. I think that's a really great example of that in terms of the company leadership. But of course,
you have to look at as many as you can, try to balance that. And, if they're comfortable, then they're going to produce more and share more and be more innovative than fear locking them down. So,
true. And, I know we're coming right up on our last 5 minutes here. I want to just, share a comment that I'm seeing here in StreamYard from Christiane. She says, thank you. Excellent conversation. I teach college students and have been writing down your comments to share with them, poignant advice, much appreciated. So I certainly echo that.
Dining etiquette too.
Say that again, Pamela.
Add some dining etiquette.
And add some dining, yes.
They've been at home, and they haven't been able to socialize too much. And now they're getting into this workforce, and those college kids need it more than ever, because we will there will be business events come up that they'll have to have dining etiquette too. So, It's not about how hungry you are.
That's so true. And that's really great advice for all of us. You know, I have a friend who was interviewing for a top position at a major company, a major blue chip company, and you know, had gone through all the rounds of interviews, but the final stage was he was invited to a one-on-one dinner, you know, at a steakhouse with, you know, one of their top 3 executives, basically.
Classic.
And this is a major blue chip company. And I will tell you, he was sweating. He was sweating, Pamela, because, you know, most of us, right? We're not necessarily, we're very casual, obviously, in our day-to-day lives. And, but that was a moment where he really wanted to make sure he wasn't doing anything, you know, any faux pas, right? But actually the dining etiquette, that's maybe a perfect segue, Pamela. I would love for you to just share, if you would, what are some of the opportunities that people have if they wanted to plug into the Protocol School of Washington? What are some of the ways they could plug in? What are some of the things you all are offering or that you have coming up, either in person or online? Where can they learn more?
Well, first of all, our website. Definitely go to our website, psow.edu, because we are an accredited institution. And, you know, we have plenty of blogs, and we have an e-newsletter that goes out once a month with timely articles. I mean, these are free. Just subscribe and you can get those on a monthly basis. And also we have our programs like our protocol officer training. Say you don't want to be a complete protocol officer, maybe you just need pieces of that. Or you plan events and you just need a certain area, you can purchase those by individual modules. So unless you want the whole certificate program, if you want to be a trainer like you can be licensed and attend our intercultural etiquette and protocol trainer course. And then recently we've just completed our e-learning lessons. So we're going to have our seminars in e-learning format. But those are not necessarily for B2C, you know, for just individual consumers. It's really, they were built for large scale learning to help not only our graduates who have to teach a large amount of people. They can't do that all at once and in person, but it could be a hybrid situation. But you know, those are ways that you can learn from the school. And then, you know, there's other great, you know, just be sure when you're researching that you're cross-checking, because there are some people that wake up in the morning and go, I just want to be, you know, I'm going to say this and everybody believe it. It's not necessarily true. So vet your resources, especially when you're searching on the internet, you know, Googling and things like that. But you can come to or if you have questions, you can email our school at info@psow.edu and we'll respond.
You guys are so responsive and so accessible. And Pamela, there's just been so many, you know, amazing nuggets dropped here. I think one of my biggest takeaways from our conversation is really your point about consistency, that it's really about showing up with, again, it's not all or nothing. You don't have to know everything, but making that choice to consistently show up, committed really to, you know, treating everyone around you, and certainly in a professional environment, with the highest levels of, you know, civility and dignity and professionalism, and taking that extra care, that extra even millimeter of care for the event that you're planning, the meeting that you're hosting, the interview you're preparing for, that thank you note at the end. But this idea of being consistent, so that it really is something that you're known for. That's one of my big takeaways. Is there any other takeaway that you would want our audience to take away with them? Anything else you'd want others to walk away with as we prepare to close here?
You know, just be self-aware. You know, being self-aware of our own, you know, we all have challenge areas and we all have strengths, and just understanding what your challenge areas are. Listen to what other people are saying and sharing with you. If you're hearing something consistently, that maybe you do need to work on something for yourself. But, you know, always be open to learn. Never stop learning. I don't know everything. You don't know everything, April. But that's the journey of life, is continuous learning. And it doesn't have to be formal learning with a master's or a PhD. It could just be life lessons. Enjoy that journey. Enjoy the learning. And even if we're unlearning, which can be painful, it's okay. You know, just continue on and say, well, I learned a lot from that. That was not what I should have done, or I could have done better, and then improve.
Yeah.
Continuous improvement, but just live life to the fullest as best you can. It's too short these days. It goes fast, like 16 years being here at this school. Wow. And good luck with your book coming out in the April-May timeframe, April. I think that one day, the day one executive. That's the way the military does. As soon as they sign on the dotted line, they're being taught leadership, whether in the enlisted rank or in the officer rank. They're being taught leadership all the way through their career. And I think that's the way we should do it too.
Well, thank you, Pamela. Thank you for your generosity today, for everything you're doing in the world, because you are every person that leaves the Protocol School of Washington is prepared to show up as a day one executive and help others as well. You're the embodiment of a lifelong learner. And I think etiquette is a space of joyous lifelong learning. Thank you so much, Pamela. I look forward to seeing you soon, I hope in person. And I thank you again today.
You too, April. And thanks for everyone that was listening in, and good luck.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.